Welcome back to the BDSM show where we're talking all things budgeting, debt savings, and money. Today on the show, we have Dan Schleifer, CEO and co-founder of Cosaic, formerly known as ChartIQ, and we're going to talk all about that in a second. BDSM is part of the bigger B project. I'm still going to keep mentioning it. My name is Ivan, and welcome back to another episode. Today, everything is general advice only. Dan, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Ivan. I appreciate the invitation.
We could have not timed a better day to have you on, and I'm going to quickly talk about Cosaic. But of course, Dan's dialing in from US, thus he's not somewhere in a basement. He's very closely watching the US election as it's unfolding. We had a quick chat earlier today. Sounds like you're not buying guns yet, but you will be soon. Well, we'll see, or at least we'll see what happens on your screen as that goes on. Well done. It's drinking time somewhere in the world. So again, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'll quickly give you a quick introduction. But you've come from a very strong background within product management, and eventually decided that it's time to do something new. Started Cosaic in 2012, I believe, in a barn in Virginia, and wanted to go in and build beautiful, simple HTML5 charts and visualize financial services. And so that's how ChartIQ was born, and then ultimately led into other fields that you're doing to create more actionable and tradable data. So tell us, how do you go from a barn in Virginia to running a super successful global fintech?
Yeah, so, again, thanks for having me. You're right, the election results are pouring in the background. It's an exciting time here in the States, slightly nauseating perhaps, but also exciting. I grew up in Virginia, which for those that might not know, if you know where Washington, D.C. is, we're just to the south. It's mostly a rural state. I live in a small college town. I grew up here, and when I decided to leave Chicago, where I was living, and start my own business, start ChartIQ, I came back to Virginia, and we rented out a barn, which, as you can imagine, was quite cheap. The barn legitimately was built out as the upstairs of the barn above the stalls was office space that was originally built out actually by the Dave Matthews Band, which is local to the area, and was their first office. And so it was a drafty old barn. We were there for years, and it was fun. Obviously, our clients are folks like you. We work with retail brokers and websites and institutions, buy side and sell side firms all around the world, and none of those are based here. So we have lots of clients in New York and London and Sydney and Hong Kong, and none of them are here in Virginia. But it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to be based. And in normal times, I spend a lot of my time traveling between kind of the big capital markets hubs.
Interesting. I know we're a little bit secluded down here in Australia, but I have actually heard of the Dave Matthews Band, which I was anyway. I found it very surprising to hear that. I don't think I've heard him for many years. Anyway, I tell you what, it's interesting. So our story in terms of how we started using your product has been must have been. I mean, it's about as soon as we realized that we need a charting platform. It was also sort of looked around on the internet and went, oh God, do we have to build another charting platform? We found you guys and went, holy shit, this is amazing. And so for all of you that are listening in, or throughout all of our trade floor applications, we use the ChartIQ charting platform. We've got sort of our own skin on it. We've added some option stuff to it. But you've got an exciting pipeline, and hopefully we'll be able to start using some of that. Do you want to talk to some of the stuff that you're working on and sort of how you're taking over the world?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean,
in a non-Trump way.
It's been a pleasure having you guys as a client, and a lot of our clients are startups. A lot of them are much larger firms. We work with obviously the Yahoo Finance and E-Trade and the big big folks, but we started as a startup as well, and it's really working with small but becoming very large clients, whether it's you guys or in India. We started working with a company called Zerodha, which started as a tiny little broker and is now, I think, the fastest growing broker in India.
I've seen their website. It's mental. Yeah, I didn't realize you guys power them. Congratulations.
Yeah, those guys have been killing it. The two founders, who are lovely guys, I think are now billionaires and super successful. We're not, but they are, which is great.
One day, Dad, we will. It's fine.
One day. But that's the cool thing about it, is that what we make gets built into trading platforms like yours, and you guys put your own spin on it, and we provide the underlying tooling that lets you guys build, a web experience or a mobile experience or even a desktop one, and tailor it to the needs of your clients. And so you guys know your customers better than we ever will. You guys know the Australian market and the kinds of tools that are needed. And so, we provide the kit, and you guys build everything around it. So it's worked out well.
We're just running a poll at the moment. Do you currently review any charting before or after making a trade? So far, 100% saying yes, that they do. That's good. And by the way, if you guys have any questions for Dan, drop them into the chat. I don't think that we'll ever have anybody who knows more about charting than Dan ever on the show. So interestingly enough, you mentioned travel. We were meant to, our very first podcast was actually meant to be with you. I remember you were planning on visiting down under, and we were getting ready to sort of start doing our stuff at open markets, and then next thing you know, COVID hit, and I was kind of hoping that we'd still do it face to face, but it sounds like that's probably not for another couple of years. The way you guys are tracking, I hear the guy in charge. He really managed the COVID situation really well.
We're killing it. We're doing great. It's fantastic here. Highly recommend it. Come visit. Yeah, I was supposed to come visit you guys and go on holiday in Australia, New Zealand. Actually, for my birthday back in the spring, was really looking forward to it, and visit you guys and do the podcast. And so I'll see you soon. But hopefully you guys will let me into your country. Right now, I don't think Australia or New Zealand, or frankly anyone, wants to show up on their doorstep. So,
look, that's okay. You just need to sit in the desert for about 2 weeks, and then you'll be okay, and then you can sort of move on. So, tell us, how did it come about? I've actually, you've used your service for so long, and we've actually, we spoke with like Eric quite closely in early days, and then sort of there's been a couple of other guys. We've actually never spoken. How did you come about? For the audience, I'm a little bit starstruck. How did you come about wanting to actually go and build a charting platform for everyone to use?
Yeah. So my background, as you mentioned at the very beginning, mostly in product management. I personally just really like data viz. It's kind of a dorky pursuit, and I'm willing to admit to being kind of a geek when it comes to such things. But I honestly think, at least for people like me, being able to look at something and just kind of intuitively understand what's going on. And so I see the poll data here, 11% of the audience doesn't look at a chart before or after the trade, which scares me, because it's such a great way to understand what's going on, and just to see the supply-demand equation, to see the trend that's happening in the market. And at least for people like me, visualizations are really the way to understand a large amount of data in a very quick period of time. And I think what's interesting in trading and in markets right now is that as individual traders, we have access to far more data than we ever did. And it used to be that you had to go to your broker's office or your investment advisor, and they had access to all the real data, and we would just see the share prices in the newspaper the next day. But now we have access to real-time data, not just about the markets, but about everything all over the world. And so the question becomes, how do you actually process all that data and make an investment decision or a trading decision off of it. And so that was really where my passion was. And so it was about taking that and applying it to capital markets, and helping people make investing decisions. And it's been fun.
Yeah, come on. We did speak about this whole past tense thing. I know it's a big moment for you.
It is fun. It is fun, Ivan.
It is fun.
It was fun. It is fun, and I plan on having a lot more fun with it in the future. It's a good time.
Just can't get out of the house for a few months. Well, we'll see. As long as there's no riots. So one of the things that I found really interesting about when we were reviewing charting packages generally was that, if we built something ourselves or whether we partnered with someone who typically weren't even closely embracing modern technology, we could never get the depth of different indicators and technical analysis tools. That's awesome. We at least had one person, Dan. Come on. That's hilarious.
A little distracted there, Ivan.
No, I've only got I've got a dog that looks like a cat and behaves like a cat, but like I've got a sausage. But anyway, they haven't seen a cat for a day. But anyway, I was going to say, so I haven't seen the breadth of indicators that you cover. And, as I was mentioning to you, like we get requests for, hey, do you have this indicator there? And we go, oh, yeah, let me just get it from Chart IQ. And then, and if not, you guys typically will go and build it. How do you manage to know so much about technical analysis as a group?
Yeah, so we've got, we've got some real experts on staff, to be honest. My head of product, Eugene, ran all of charting and graphics at Bloomberg for about a dozen years. I'd like to think that I know a lot about charts, but he knows a lot about charts. And the nice thing about having clients all around the world, they're serving traders all around the world, is that we get all of those requests. And so certain things will be popular in Australia and New Zealand that are different than what's in India, that would be different than what's in Europe. And so we have to service all of those. And so the nice thing about what we do is that we have tens, if not hundreds of millions of traders every month using our charts. And we get the feedback from clients like you saying, hey, can you add this feature? Can you add this very specific drawing tool or annotation tool or the technical indicator or chart type or whatever it is? And we're able to do that and really service a wide swath of folks. I'm glad to see that everybody was paying attention and the color of my cap. He's just imagine running around. He'll reappear. He's running around in the background. He's also very anxious about the election results, so he's just got energy to get rid of. I'd
make a white supremacist joke right now, but it'd be, yeah.
The interesting thing about charting and about trading, honestly, is that everybody has to find their own trading style that works for them. And I know you guys have a lot of different clients, and everybody has to find what works for them. And there is no one right way or wrong way to look at the markets. It's all about finding something that works for you, developing a plan, and sticking with that plan. And so, what might make sense to you? You might be a long-term investor. I might be a day trader. We have different ways of looking at the market, and we need different tools for that. And so there's a variety of things to make it work. And I think that's the great thing about the markets in general and about charting in particular, is that I can set up my charts exactly the way that I want them. You can set them up the way that you are. And as you know, in your platform, you can save your studies and save your template the way that you want it and be able to have that every time that you log in. And it's just about that customization and making sure that the charts work for you, not that there's one right way or wrong way.
Yeah. And do you see any specific indicators that you particularly like? Is there anything that that you see kind of stands out from others? Are there any favorites, I guess?
Yeah. So, well, what's interesting to me, and I think this is probably the case for most people, is that the more they learn about markets, the thing that they're learning about becomes the interesting thing to look at. And so for me, it's really about the options market. And the options market is certainly exploding all around the world, and retail participation in options is going up. And so the ability to layer in options data with traditional kind of technical analysis and time series is the thing that's fascinating for me, because the options market is a reflection of sentiment and price discovery that you can layer in for additional context. And so that might be looking at historical volatility of a particular instrument. We've recently had some features to kind of layer in all of the different option strikes along the y-axis and be able to see open interest and volume.
That's nice.
So ways for somebody like myself that's not a math guy, who's not an options trader, through and through, but is used to looking at a candlestick chart, to be able to layer in the options market data and see what's going on and see how that's relevant to what's going on. So that's what got me excited at the moment. Part of that is just part of my own journey of learning more about options trading. But I think it's really interesting, again, going back to being a data viz geek, is how do you take a big data set like options data and make it really simple and easy for a guy like me to understand?
Yeah, I tell you what, we've been on that journey at Tradefloor for 5 years. So I, my background is an options trader. I was actually a futures trader, then an options trader, and I still trade options a lot more than I trade stock. I hold 100% of my equity exposure is talk about I think that's one of the reasons why we changed the D and the BDSM to debt from diversification, which it usually was because I can't have a straight face and talk about diversification. As far as I understand the importance of it, I'm 100% exposed to my company. I don't know. Typical entrepreneurs are about the same, and it doesn't matter if I buy some BHP or actually probably names that are much more familiar to you, the Teslas of the world. But interesting. So I mean, options is, we've been working through that, and we've smashed in like an applied volatility indicator, an IV rank indicator into your chart, which shows how expensive volatility is at that given point in time. We haven't done anything around skew. It sounds like it's you've got an exciting journey. It's a very deep world, and there's a lot of stuff going on in options research at the moment as well. So it sounds like you've just planned out the next 7 years of your life.
Yeah, I think so, and it'll be fun to work together with you guys on it, because folks like you who come from an options background honestly think about markets in a bit of a different way, and again, it tends to be more maths guys, but
we pretend to be. I'm like you.
Implied volatility and thinking about delta and thinking about all these things. It's foreign to me, but it's natural to you. And the question is really, how do we take that and make it natural and obvious to just equity traders like myself that are used to trading the underlying, but know that there's a whole world of options out there that we can use to kind of express our trade ideas. And so that's the fun part to me when it comes to what we can do with charting, that not just having every technical indicator that your traders ask for, but to think of new ways of displaying data. It sounds like you guys have already done some of that, and we're doing some work with you guys on it. But how can we take things that are new and interesting and contextualize them so that we understand our normal kind of trade decision-making process, that we can see that information.
I'll chat to you a little bit later, and whenever we've got time. But yeah, we've got some interesting things we've done there through the ASX options trading game here, which is the game that we built for the exchange. And we've been sort of on that journey of simplifying options for a little while. And I think that there's some interesting things that equity traders can learn from options as well. But there was a poll running at the moment as well. How often do you use, everyone 100% right on the cat? It was in fact white, not tortoiseshell. How often do you use trading charts to help inform your investment decisions? 50% said a few times a day, 12% said a few times a week, 25% a few times a month, and 12% said I don't really use them. So for the 12% that don't really use them, what would you say to them? How can they use charts to get a better understanding of making investment decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about charts, especially for people that don't use them already, is that you don't have to spend all day looking at charts. You don't have to become an expert in technical analysis to incorporate charts into your trading style. The great thing about them is that they can just be a quick sanity check. So if you have something and you plan on trading, and for whatever reason, whether it's you've done fundamental analysis or it's a brand that you really believe in, or whatever reasons that you have behind that, or options analysis or whatever else, it can just be the quick glance at the chart to see, hey, what is the overall trend look like? Don't fight the trend, right? The old, never buy something with a flat 200-day moving average, right? Again, volatility traders aside, it can be that kind of a quick sanity check. Not that you're going to base your decision making off of charts, but that when you're doing your due diligence before you enter into a position, you can just take a look and say, am I fighting against the broader trend? And what does the overall supply and demand in the market look like? Is it going up? Is it going down? Has there been a recent change in direction that you need to be aware of? And so it can be as simple as that. And if that's all you ever use charts for, that's fine. Obviously, I use them as kind of the core thesis of what I buy and sell, but it doesn't have to be that intense for people.
I'm actually one thing that you guys released a little while ago that I really want to integrate once we've just got a little bit more time is trading from the chart. Especially, I think you've had some massive enhancements to that in the past year or two from memory. And now you can kind of put like cool OCO type orders in there, one cancels the other type orders, conditional orders and things like that, which is awesome. And you cater not only for the sort of the everyday mum and dad investors, so to say, you also cater for super professional institutional investors. I mean, that's a very broad range of things. And interestingly enough, question around and Julian, actually, I'll probably quickly answer this question. Sorry, I know there was sort of a question, but then I realized that we'll just run out of time and talk about charting and options, especially if we start going down that path. I intend to trade US market. How do I do that and use your charts? We don't have US. Do you know any brokers, US brokers that do allow Australian accounts off the top of your head that use Chart IQ?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I don't know which brokers allow accounts from which countries is a bit beyond me, because it is so country by country.
Complicated.
What I would say is certainly if you're looking for a place to look at our charts with US market data, Yahoo Finance is a great place to go. So Yahoo Finance uses our charts, and they obviously have all of the US market data. And so, you can't trade through them. You still need to find a broker. But as far as a place to find market data and our charting, and then find a broker that'll open accounts for Aussies.
Yep. And there's some cool options out there now. We've got a whole new group of people, like Stake does free trading into US with obviously make money on FX. Then you've got Self Wealth coming. One of our clients, Self Wealth, coming into doing US trading. I believe in the next. I think they were actually going to go live around about this time. Due to the election, decided it's probably not the best time to launch US trading, and I think we'll probably have some volatility. Speaking of which, how is the check looking at the moment? Yeah,
I've got on my other monitor, I've got the election results. I don't see anything too crazy going on, but we'll find out. I'll let you know. You'll see either cry, tears of joy, or tears of sadness. You mentioned trading from the chart, and I want to poke at that for just one moment. It's a really interesting thing. You mentioned kind of mom and pop investors as well as professional traders. Trading from the chart is one of these things that interestingly kind of appeals to both. It's a really simple way of just dragging and dropping where you want your order to be and displaying it, and a really quick way to use charts in that as you're kind of dragging a limit order down, you can see when you hit a point of support or resistance on the chart, because it shows that line across. And so it's a really easy way to see that.
Yeah.
It's also a really nice way to be able to show the risk reward ratio for a trade. So you mentioned something like an OCO, one cancels the other trade. You can automatically kind of show what the risk reward ratio is based on where your conditional orders are set. And so I think that's a great example of where charts make for a real easy kind of visual metaphor and way to enter trades, and to be doing some of that sanity checking along the way.
I remember, I don't think you would have, well, you may have seen the platform, but I don't think it's CFDs, I believe, are illegal in US for retail clients. But we had a platform called RG Markets here that came in, which was a UK pair trading business, and or as I like to call them. And they actually, I remember they were this was like when I remember, because I used to use a fair bit of their platform when their first iPhone came out, or the actual iPhone that you could use, and they had an app for it straight away. And I remember their charting did this really cool thing where they showed you where the position was with a line, and that allowed you to start making decisions. And I remember that single-handedly improved my trading results pretty quickly. And I think that why I'm so excited about putting this in as soon as we've got the bandwidth to do it is because I think that it adds such a great dimension, not only the risk reward ratios, but also just visually understanding where the price is versus where your stops are versus, where your limits are. It's such a powerful tool. Do you see a lot of people using it?
We do, actually. It's become a really popular feature for exactly the reason that you said, which is being able to go in on your mobile phone, go in on the website, go wherever, and be able to see, here's where my stop loss is, and how close am I getting to that, and what is that line? I have my cost basis line out here, I've got my stop loss down here, and to be able to very quickly see kind of how the market is moving around those. And it provides a really clear way to see your existing positions, your open pending orders, and to be able to manage risk. And I think everybody that's been trading for a long time, the first thing they'll tell you is that managing risk is the most important thing. And so the ability to just kind of visually see where you are and manage that, it's fantastic.
And quickly change your order level as well. Like that's probably the coolest thing. If the market's rapidly getting to your stop loss and you feel like, oh, I need a bit more, or alternatively, more likely, the better scenario is that it's going in your direction, and you can drag and drop it and quickly adjust, sort of in the circa trailing stop way, but a little bit more human, I guess. Anyway, I've quickly got it. One dream that I've always had to do with your charts, and I've never got around to doing it, was because we were predominantly using the charting platform for the top end sophisticated traders in Australia, whether it be advisors or whether that be sort of high net worth options traders. And we were specifically using 4 options, was to place option orders directly from the chart. And I've got a little cookbook that we create, so you can go on and it automatically calculates how to create the most optimal, say, R and Condor or whatever. And then wouldn't that be cool just to have that showing on the line, and then on the chart, and then you can actually just drag and drop based on where the strikes are. That's something we've got to talk about. We're gonna have some fun working on options together. I think everybody tuning in and listening to this is gonna be excited to see the outcome of it, because I think you and I have a lot more about options, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to incorporate this stuff on the chart, and I think together we're gonna do good things. Yeah, exactly, and you know charts much better than I do. I honestly, I think it's going to be awesome. Andrew asks, can Chart IQ incorporate things like social media sentiment?
Yeah, so I think you guys have done a great job of this in showing how you can take your own data sets and layer them into the chart. And so data sets that you guys have that aren't just RSI and moving averages and indicators, and social sentiment is one of those. So you might want to plot in a line, and then we offer the ability to do a rolling correlation coefficient, and so you could see how closely correlated over time whether with a short, rolling period or a long one, how closely tied sentiment is to price, and to be able to see that. Another example would be, you were talking about options, being able to have the put-call ratio and being able to see how closely correlated price of the underlying is to put-call ratio. So those kinds of things where you guys have a data set that's relevant to you and your traders, you can absolutely plot that into the chart, and then allow your users to interact between that data set and the primary price data sets. And so that's definitely something that you can do.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I wonder, actually, it's an interesting point, and if anybody again has any questions or comments or is excited about some of the some of these features coming in and want us to prioritize getting those in with work from Cosaic. Well, actually, I got to ask you. I know it's very much charting and mosaic that came together to create Cosaic, and partially a major. I was going to say a shift, but it's not a shift. It's a enhancement in thinking and taking over the financial services world and creating data analytics. But do you want to talk about Finsemble?
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate the tee up there. Yeah, so
it is
when
cool.
I started the business back in 2012, the company was called ChartIQ, and ChartIQ is still the name of our charting platform that you guys use. But about 3 years ago, we introduced a second product into the market called Finsemble. And really, the idea behind Finsemble is just to be able to connect together all of the tools that traders use. And so that might be your Bloomberg terminal, plus your trading platform, plus some internal analytics, mostly focused at the institutional market, not as much on the retail side, but being able to connect those systems together and build workflow between them. So when I do, when I click on something in my blotter in Bloomberg, I want to update my trading platform, and I want that to update my risk system. And so we started building that and released it about 3 years ago. And as soon as the company was more than just charts, we knew that we were going to have to change the name of the company, and we put that off as long as we could. And so back in July of this year, we announced Cosaic. And so to your point, the root being mosaic, so kind of bringing all the pieces together. So ChartIQ remains the name of the charting product, and certainly still our flagship. But yeah, at this point, we've become a bigger company with a product portfolio, and we kind of outgrew ChartIQ as the name of the company.
It's an extremely powerful vision, and in terms of what you're doing there, I think that it's not easy getting a bunch of vendors, global vendors, especially like Bloomberg, to come in, and locally guys like Iris and stuff I know are coming onto that. That's going to be, once that's done, that's the biggest gripe that people have with financial services vendors, is the fact that none of them talk together. So it's kudos to you for going out and being the glue. And then ultimately you'll just destroy all of them with amazing technology. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Philip asks, what is your favorite technical analysis chart, and why? And Phil, very much appreciate the fact that you actually gave us the US spelling, just so that Dan can actually understand what we're talking about.
It's important. It's important. You would think that English is English, but it's not. We still don't speak English here. So, to be honest, I'm a keep it simple guy, and so as we were talking about before, layering in options data is kind of the thing that I'm obsessed with right now. But my own kind of chart work tends to explore a new area and then come back to basics. Explore a new area, come back to basics. And so right now I'm exploring how to bring in options data, but the reality is that my basics tend to just be a candlestick chart, 14-period RSI, and a 50 and 200-day moving average. And that's kind of my...
You copied my template, man. Except instead of RSI, I use implied volatility, but that's literally, yeah. It's one of these things. It's just I knew you had access to my data.
But it's, like I said, for me, it's about the journey around engaging with the markets, and trading is about learning and exploring and finding what works. And so having that as kind of my core basics I know what I'm looking at when I see it. I can quickly identify patterns. And as I explore new data sets or new indicators or new, different techniques, I always have that as my kind of foundation.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Phil did have just a little bit of a follow-on about Phil work. Phil's actually probably the most excited person to have this conversation, because pretty much all of the integrations that exist between our technology and ChartIQ, Phil pretty much did all of that. So, he's a very proud Englishman. So he's very disappointed that it looks like he can't spell, whereas in actual fact, for you it's a bit different. But anyway, I think some of that stuff is going to be awesome. And one thing I love about what you guys are doing is that you're not just looking about, technical analysis being sort of, Dow Jones writing about, the Charles Dow writing about technical analysis in the Wall Street Journal, and the world of technical analysis has adapted so much. There's so much more mathematics involved now, and also, to Andrew's point around social media becoming such an interesting forward-looking estimate. How do you look at sort of that broader picture about some of these? How do you find those forward-looking indicators in a world with so much more information? Is that something that you look at or think about?
So it's I think we were talking earlier about how little data used to be available, and now we kind of have too much data and trying to figure out how to deal with it. It's been an exciting time to kind of partner with other fintechs that are generating interesting data sets. And so I know it's sadly they don't cover the Australian equities market, so it won't be relevant to you guys. But we have an incredible partnership with a company called Maximise, which is a crowdsourced platform for earnings estimates. So you have the traditional kind of Wall Street consensus estimate, but they have a platform with thousands of buy-side, sell-side, and independent analysts that put in earnings estimates and revenue estimates every quarter, and are actually far more accurate than the traditional Wall Street consensus estimate. And so we took that on as a challenge to how do you layer in fundamental data, both historical as well as forward-looking, into a technical analysis chart. We came up with a concept that we call visual earnings. I won't try to describe it to people that are listening to the podcast later and have to close their eyes. But basically, how do you take, for instance, if I know when earnings announcement data is coming out in the future, and I have estimated earnings both from Wall Street and this crowd, then how do I take 3 quarters of actuals, 1 quarter of estimated, multiplied by the current price to earnings ratio, and have implied price targets based on that? And so not looking at crowdsourced price targets for the security, but crowdsourced fundamental estimates, and creating implied price targets and showing the sentiment around that. And then to be able to visually show what happens when the company either misses or beats earnings expectations, and really, what the market's expecting versus what happens in reality and how the price comes out as a result. It's been a really interesting way to look at that data set. And so for us, it's been very much partnering with companies that have interesting data and have somebody, whether it's a quant or a researcher or whoever it is, that knows that data set deeply, so that we can collaborate together on how to visualize it. And so that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I won't speak too deeply into it, because otherwise we'll be here for. We'd probably get the election results in the next 2 weeks, about the same time we finish. A couple of interesting things as well. I know, by the way, as well, just before we do wrap up, if you guys do have some final questions for Dan, please let us know. But how many markets are you now across? I mean, charting obviously is something that's applicable to any market. I mean, the first chart I think was created, the first technical chart was created for rice back in Japan, I believe, right? I think that's the consensus, where the guy was pricing rice futures what, 17th century, I think it was, if I remember correctly.
17th or 18th century. I think the inflation adjusted was one of the most successful hedge fund managers of all time. Yeah.
Which is crazy. But so it's been around for a while. It's enhanced a lot. It covers any market. It covers even what you were talking about, beating and missing. It covers weather forecasts. Pretty much essentially. In Melbourne, don't bother forecasting. It's always wrong. But anyway. But having said that, how many markets are you now across? It's a very long-winded way of me asking a question with sort of a subtle compliment in it. But how many markets do you actually cover now, and how many markets are you in?
I don't even know the answer, to be honest. We must be in most of them by now. I mean, we have customers in the whole Pacific Rim, from Japan and South Korea, mainland China, Hong Kong, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, obviously down into Australia, all throughout Latin America. We have customers in the Middle East. Now, the asset classes change, right? So in Europe and the Middle East, FX trading is far more popular, FX and CFDs, than the equities markets. Whereas if you go into Latin America, it tends to be local equities markets. But yeah, we've got customers all around the world. It's pretty interesting. Thankfully, we support translation and localization, and oftentimes I log into a platform that's using our charts, and I can't even navigate the UI to figure out where the buttons are, because they look different, and they're in Arabic, or whatever the case may be. So it's pretty wild. At this point,
I hope you didn't find that with our system. I hope you understood where everring's at.
No,
we changed the UI a little bit.
The language barrier was minimal. It's been fun, and I think that is the interesting thing about technical analysis, is that it is applicable to any market, any instrument. We recently brought on a client that has nothing to do with the financial markets, that's actually doing natural gas exploration, and that does fracking, right? So they're basically extracting natural gas out of the earth, and they've got these wellheads. So they drill and bore into the earth, and this is me not being a geologist, bore into the earth, and they press high pressure fluid down, and that forces the gas back up. And so they have sensors that measure all of the pressure at all the different points along the wellheads. And they're actually pumping that data into ChartIQ and using technical analysis to identify when they have problems in the system, and to be able to proactively troubleshoot things before they have to shut down systems.
That is ridiculous. That's awesome. I mean, that's
it works, right? If the trend is going against you, like that, the wellhead's going to blow. And so it's really interesting, as we have, again, just this massive amount of data coming out of these systems, whether it's industrial, IoT, all these kinds of sensors. So there's a lot of fun stuff out there.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we won't take too much out in terms of the fracking guys. I hope for their sake, I hope that Trump wins. For your sake, I hope that Biden wins. I don't know which way I said, but anyway. But thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got a very long night ahead of you, staring at polls, and hopefully you'll have a good night's sleep after that. Whether it be from misery or joy. But thank you so much for making the time and coming on the show. We've got some cool stuff that we'll start doing again, probably Q1 next year with your team and delivering more and more results. I look forward to probably having you back around then. If hopefully it'll be face to face.
I was going to say, cool. Hopefully in person. Let's be optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear that if Trump wins, most people are moving down to Australia anyway, including Bruce Springsteen. So maybe you can come join us.
Can you help me get a visa? Is that what you're saying, Ivan? You can.
I can. Yeah, I'm sure we can get you like a distinguished. We look. I can't speak for my government, but we've got some friends. We made the joke today that when we spoke earlier, of course, you were on the phone with Andrew, and our Victorian Premier is Dan Andrews, who, you know, we most of us don't really like so much. But anyway, we'll try and adopt you, and you know, and hopefully by that stage, Dan Andrews won't be with us. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Lovely seeing and actually speaking to you in person. All the best tonight. All the best over the next couple of months, and we'll chat soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to working closer together in the future.
And we'll send you a visa.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Bye.